Imagine this: you walk into a room and someone glances at you with a smirk. Maybe they make a dismissive comment, or worse, they ignore you entirely as if you don't matter. That sting of disrespect, that quiet fury or creeping self-doubt, it's universal. We've all felt it. But here's the truth that Stoicism teaches us: your worth was never theirs to define. The ancient Stoics faced this too. Slaves, emperors, and philosophers alike were mocked, underestimated, and dismissed. Yet they cultivated an unshakable inner fortress. Why? Because they understood a fundamental principle: no one's opinion of you has power unless you grant it. Today we're going to explore how you can build that same resilience, how to stand firm when others look down on you, not with arrogance, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their own value. This isn't about shutting out the world or pretending insults don't hurt. It's about mastering your response so that no one else controls your peace. If you've ever felt small because of someone else's words or actions, this is your guide to reclaiming your strength. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see disrespect not as a wound, but as an opportunity to practice true Stoic power. Let's begin. Part where others' opinions never define you. Let's begin with an uncomfortable but liberating truth. From the moment you were born, people have been forming opinions about you. Your parents, teachers, peers, strangers on the internet. Everyone has had something to say about who you are and what you're worth. The Stoics understood this human tendency all too well, and they developed a philosophy that allows us to stand firm when the world tries to tell us who we should be. Marcus Aurelius, ruling over the vast Roman Empire, faced constant judgment from senators, rivals, and citizens alike. In his private meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple yet profound insight reveals the core of Stoic wisdom. The only opinions that truly matter are the ones you choose to accept. But why is this so difficult in practice? Why do we find ourselves lying awake at night, replaying some offhand comment or dismissive glance? The answer lies in our evolutionary wiring. As social creatures, our ancestors' survival depended on group acceptance. Being ostracized could mean death. While we no longer face such literal threats, our brains still react to social judgment with the same intensity. The Stoics offer us a way to transcend this primitive programming. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of history's most influential philosophers, taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Consider this: when someone looks down on you, they're giving you an extraordinary gift, the opportunity to practice true inner freedom. Their condescension is merely their opinion, as fleeting and changeable as the weather. Let me share a modern example. Imagine two co-workers at the same company. One constantly seeks validation, tailoring their behavior to please others. The other works with quiet confidence, focused on doing good work regardless of who notices. Who do you think experiences more peace? Who do you think ultimately commands more respect? The Stoic approach doesn't mean becoming indifferent to others, but rather becoming selective about whose opinions deserve your energy. This brings us to a crucial distinction the Stoics made between what's within our control and what isn't. Your actions, your values, your responses, these are yours to command. Other people's thoughts, judgments, and attitudes, these exist entirely outside your control. Trying to manage them is like trying to control the wind, exhausting and ultimately futile. The practice begins with awareness. Next time you feel that familiar sting of someone looking down on you, pause. Ask yourself, is this person's assessment based on facts or projections? Do they even know me well enough to judge? What would change if I simply didn't accept this judgment as valid? This moment of space between stimulus and response is where your power lies. Remember this: every great thinker, leader, and innovator in history faced doubters. The difference wasn't that they were universally admired, but that they refused to let others' limited perspectives define their potential. Your journey is no different. The people looking down on you today may become your biggest supporters tomorrow, or they may not. Either way, their opinions don't determine your worth unless you grant them that authority. Part 2. Transforming disrespect into strength. The people who look down on you are offering you an unexpected gift, though it may not feel like one in the moment. This is the paradox at the heart of Stoic wisdom. The very act of being dismissed or belittled becomes the raw material for forging unshakable inner strength. Seneca, no stranger to adversity, faced exile and constant political attacks, yet he understood that true character is shaped through resistance. He compared the process to polishing a gem. Without friction, there can be no shine. Those who condescend to you, who treat you as insignificant, are unwittingly providing the resistance needed to refine your character. There's a reason why disrespect stings so deeply. Modern science confirms what the Stoics intuited centuries ago. The pain of social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical injury. This is why a cutting remark can feel like a blow to the chest, why exclusion can ache like a wound. The Stoics called this initial, involuntary reaction the first movement of emotion, an instinctive response that lies outside our full control. But what happens next is where Stoic practice takes hold. They taught that while we cannot always prevent the initial sting, we have absolute sovereignty over how we interpret and respond to it. This is where the Stoic discipline of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of difficulties, becomes invaluable. Rather than hoping for universal approval, the Stoics would mentally rehearse encountering scorn and indifference. They did this not to dwell in negativity, but to remove the element of surprise. Imagine walking into every interaction already having contemplated the possibility of being dismissed. When it actually occurs, instead of reacting with shock or anger, you meet it with calm recognition. This is what I prepared for. Now, how will I apply my principles? What was once a personal slight becomes a training ground for wisdom. Epictetus offers a profound shift in perspective. When someone speaks poorly of you, it is as if they are extending a gift. If you refuse to accept it, the gift remains with them. This mental reframing changes everything. That disparaging comment from a colleague, that patronizing tone from an acquaintance, these belong to the speaker unless you choose to claim them. The power lies in cultivating what psychologists now call cognitive distance, the ability to observe your thoughts rather than be consumed by them. Consider Cato the Younger, who walked through Rome's judgmental Senate halls in simple, unfashionable clothing. When ridiculed for his appearance, he responded with neither defensiveness nor aggression, but with quiet assurance. If people stare, let them stare at something worth seeing. This was not arrogance, but the confidence of a man who measured himself against his own standards, rather than the fleeting opinions of others. His example reminds us that disapproval often reveals more about the limitations of the critic than the flaws of the criticized. The practice begins with 3 simple questions, asked not in haste but with deliberate reflection. First, consider whether the judgment against you is based on complete and accurate information. It almost never is. Second, ask yourself whether this person's opinion has any bearing on your ability to live with virtue and purpose. It does not. Finally, and most importantly, ask what your best self would do in this moment. The answer inevitably leads you back to calm indifference or, even more powerfully, to compassionate curiosity about why this person feels the need to diminish others. This is how disrespect becomes fuel rather than injury. Every snub, every condescending glance is an invitation to strengthen your resolve, to return to your principles, and to demonstrate through your equanimity that your worth is not contingent upon external validation. The people who look down on you are giving you the opportunity to prove, to yourself most of all, that their gaze cannot make you smaller unless you consent to be diminished. As we continue, we will explore how to cultivate a self-worth so deeply rooted that no insult can unsettle it. If this journey resonates with you, consider subscribing. The most transformative insights are yet to come, and I would hate for you to miss what unfolds next. The path to unshakable confidence is not found in the absence of criticism, but in mastering your relationship to it. Part 3. What condescension reveals about them. When someone looks down on you, they hold up a mirror, not to your worth, but to their own limitations. The Stoics understood that every judgment passed says far more about the judge than the judged. Marcus Aurelius observed in his Meditations, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I meet today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." This wasn't cynicism, but clear-eyed recognition that hurtful behavior stems from ignorance, not truth. Consider why people feel compelled to diminish others. Psychological research confirms what ancient wisdom long suggested. Those most prone to contempt often harbor deep-seated insecurity. The colleague who mocks your ambitions may fear their own unrealized potential. The relative who dismisses your choices may be trapped in unexamined traditions. Even the stranger who treats you as invisible may be battling their own sense of insignificance. As Seneca noted, cruelty springs from weakness. Understanding this transforms our response from personal offense to sober observation. The Stoic practice of sympathia, seeing all people as connected in a web of mutual ignorance and growth, helps here. When encountering arrogance, ask not how dare they, but what pain or limitation drives this behavior. This shift doesn't excuse poor treatment, but prevents you from absorbing its poison. Epictetus advised, "When another blames you or hates you, remember they're doing what seems right to them. They can no more see their error than you can see yours." Such perspective dissolves anger into something resembling pity, not the condescending kind, but genuine sorrow for those trapped in small-mindedness. History offers striking examples. Socrates, famously declared the wisest man in Athens by the oracle, spent his days questioning those who claimed certainty. His method exposed how often arrogance masks ignorance. When sentenced to death by those whose authority he challenged, he drank the hemlock with serene acceptance, his worth intact despite their verdict. Likewise, Zeno of Citium lost everything in a shipwreck before founding Stoicism, proving how little external validation matters to true purpose. Modern application begins with a simple reframe: next time someone treats you as lesser, recognize it as their limitation speaking. The cashier who rolls their eyes, the date who checks their phone while you speak, the professional who talks over you, these behaviors reveal their present capacity for awareness, not your value. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." This understanding leads to remarkable freedom. You needn't wrestle others into respecting you. You need only maintain such clear self-knowledge that their misjudgments become irrelevant. The person looking down on you is like someone declaring the sky green. Their error doesn't change reality, only demonstrates their flawed perception. Your task isn't to correct them, but to continue living according to nature's truths. Part 4. Your value needs no validation. The Stoics recognized a fundamental truth that modern psychology now confirms. The more we derive our sense of worth from external sources, the more vulnerable we become to life's inevitable slights and dismissals. Your true fortress against contempt isn't built from others' praise, but from an unassailable inner citadel of self-knowledge. Epictetus, who endured slavery before becoming a revered philosopher, put it bluntly, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This isn't self-deprecation, it's the ultimate declaration of independence from others' opinions. Consider how we typically measure self-worth: career titles, social media likes, the approval of peers. The Stoics called these preferred indifference, things that may be nice to have but are ultimately irrelevant to our fundamental worth. Marcus Aurelius, ruling the world's greatest empire, reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This memento mori perspective strips away all pretenses, leaving only what truly matters: your character, your principles, your capacity for virtue. The practice begins with what the Stoics termed self-examination. Each evening, ask yourself 3 questions without self-judgment. Where today did I act with integrity despite criticism? When did I falter by seeking validation? What principles will I reaffirm tomorrow? This daily audit, recorded in a journal as the Stoics did, gradually shifts your center of gravity inward. You'll begin noticing a remarkable change. Where once a dismissive comment would ruin your day, now it barely registers as you become anchored in deeper values. History provides compelling models. Consider Diogenes, who lived in a barrel and told Alexander the Great to stop blocking his sunlight. His radical self-sufficiency wasn't about poverty, but about demonstrating that freedom comes from needing nothing from others' estimation. Or Musonius Rufus, exiled multiple times yet never diminished, who taught, "The person is educated who can bear adversity well." These exemplars show that true confidence comes not from being universally admired, but from being utterly unconcerned with admiration. Modern neuroscience supports this ancient wisdom. Studies on self-determination theory confirm that intrinsic motivation, acting from personal values rather than external rewards, leads to greater resilience and satisfaction. When neuroscientists examine the brains of those with strong internal loci of control, they find reduced activity in threat response regions when facing social rejection. In other words, the Stoic practice of self-validation literally rewires how we process disrespect. Your turning point comes when you realize needing to prove your worth actually demonstrates doubt in it. The truly confident don't explain themselves to detractors any more than the sun apologizes to those who prefer darkness. This isn't arrogance. It's the quiet assurance of someone who measures themselves against their own standards. As Seneca observed, a good person doesn't walk with the crowd, but follows their own path. The practical path forward is both simple and demanding. Start small. Next time you're tempted to correct someone's low opinion of you, pause. Ask, does this person's understanding actually affect my reality? Gradually expand this practice. Dress for your own comfort rather than others' approval. Speak your truth without watering it down for palatability. Pursue goals that resonate with your values rather than societal benchmarks. With time, you'll find that what others think of you becomes genuinely unimportant, not because you've grown callous, but because you've become rooted in something far more substantial. What comes next is perhaps the most practical section yet: specific Stoic exercises to train your mind in this unshakable self-possession. If you're committed to building this kind of resilience, don't miss the transformative techniques ahead. True freedom from others' opinions isn't a theory. It's a daily practice we'll explore together. Part 5: Stoic Practices for Daily Resilience. The true test of philosophy comes not in contemplation, but in action, when the sting of disrespect strikes and you must choose between reaction and principle. The Stoics were relentless pragmatists. Their wisdom meant nothing unless it could withstand life's sharp edges. Epictetus, who knew oppression firsthand, insisted, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." This section moves from theory to practice, offering concrete Stoic exercises to transform how you navigate contempt. Begin with what the Stoics called the view from above. When someone belittles you, pause and imagine seeing the interaction from a cosmic perspective. Two specks on a tiny planet in an infinite universe. Does this person's opinion still feel monumental? Marcus Aurelius used this technique to maintain perspective amid imperial politics. Think of the whole of existence, how infinitesimal your share of it. Modern astronauts describe the overview effect, a cognitive shift when viewing Earth from space that dissolves petty concerns. You needn't leave the atmosphere to cultivate this mindset. Regular visualization shrinks egos, theirs and yours, to proper proportion. Next, practice deliberate discomfort. The Stoics intentionally sought situations that might invite judgment, wearing simple clothes among the fashionable, eating modest meals at lavish gatherings. They weren't masochists, they were immunizing themselves against the fear of disapproval. Start small. Go to a nice restaurant alone without burying yourself in your phone. Attend an event underdressed zevas within reason. Each time you survive anticipated judgment unscathed, you weaken its power. Seneca praised this: set aside a certain number of days to be content with the scantiest food. Then poverty won't frighten you. Develop what modern Stoics call the internal referee. Imagine an impartial observer, perhaps your wisest future self, assessing each interaction. When slighted, this referee asks, "Did I act with integrity? Then why does their view matter?" Marcus Aurelius addressed his better self directly. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. This mental construct creates space between stimulus and response, preventing others' behavior from dictating yours. The Stoic pause proves invaluable. When feeling demeaned, institute a mandatory waiting period before responding. Count to 10, take 3 deep breaths, or sleep on it. Zeno, Stoicism's founder, taught, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we may listen more and speak less." Neuroscience confirms this wisdom. The amygdala's emotional flare subside within 6 seconds unless fueled. Each pause strengthens your capacity to choose principle over impulse. Journaling transforms experience into wisdom. Each evening, record 1 instance where you absorbed disrespect well, 1 where you faltered, and how to improve tomorrow. The Stoics didn't just think about life, they documented their progress. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations was never meant for publication. It was his personal training log. Your journal serves the same purpose, not for perfect prose, but for honest reckoning. Finally, practice loving indifference. When encountering disdain, wish the offender well in your mind, not passive-aggressively, but genuinely hoping they overcome whatever compels them to belittle others. This isn't about them. It's about preventing their behavior from hardening your heart. As Marcus noted, the best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. These practices work cumulatively. There's no single technique that magically extinguishes the pain of disrespect, but together they reshape your relationship to judgment. Like muscles strengthening under resistance, your character grows through these conscious engagements with adversity. The goal isn't to become impervious to feeling. That's not Stoicism, but to ensure feelings don't dictate unworthy actions. Part 6. Living beyond approval and disdain. We arrive now at the heart of the matter. Not how to cope when others look down on you, but how to reach a state of being where such concerns simply cease to hold power. This is the ultimate promise of Stoic practice, not merely better reactions, but fundamental transformation. As Seneca observed, it is not that we have so little time, but that we waste so much of it caring about what doesn't matter. Consider the mature oak tree. It doesn't argue with those who call it a shrub. It simply continues being an oak. This is the essence of Stoic confidence, not the insecure need to prove your worth, but the quiet certainty that needs no proof. Marcus Aurelius described this state beautifully. You could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow. The power to live beyond others' judgments is always available. We postpone it only because part of us still clings to external validation. The journey culminates in what the Stoics called ataraxia, not the absence of disturbance, but the profound peace that comes when we stop being disturbed by disturbances. Imagine walking through a marketplace where vendors shout insults. You have two choices: engage with every taunt, or keep walking toward your destination. Most of us spend our lives trapped in imaginary arguments, trying to convince detractors of our worth. The Stoic alternative is simple yet radical: stop turning around. Practical wisdom for maintaining this mindset comes in 3 timeless principles. First, distinguish between what's yours and what isn't. Your character, your values, your actions, these are your property. Others' opinions belong to them as much as their physical possessions do. You wouldn't feel insulted if someone criticized your neighbor's car. Apply that same detachment to their criticisms of you. Second, remember that all things pass, both praise and condemnation. The same people who look down on you today may seek your favor tomorrow. The Roman general Marius was exiled by those who later begged for his leadership. As Marcus Aurelius reflected, how quickly all things disappear, the bodies themselves into the universe, their memories into time. Finally, focus on contribution rather than reputation. When your energy flows outward toward meaningful work and service, you become less concerned with how others perceive you. The Stoics measured life not by what they received, but by what they gave. As Musonius Rufus taught, what good is knowledge that doesn't work for the common good? This is the great liberation Stoicism offers, the realization that your worth was never in others' hands to begin with. Like the sun that shines regardless of whether anyone appreciates its light, your inherent value exists independent of recognition. The people who look down on you are like spectators at a play, convinced their boos or cheers affect the performance. But you, the actor, know the script continues regardless. And so we come full circle. What began as a sting, that feeling of being looked down upon, has become, through Stoic wisdom, an opportunity to discover something unshakable within yourself. The insults haven't changed. The condescending glances still exist in the world. But you have changed. You've learned to see these moments for what they truly are, not verdicts on your worth, but tests of your understanding. Remember this: Every great oak was once an acorn that stood its ground. The philosophers, leaders, and innovators we admire weren't universally celebrated in their time. They were people who stopped waiting for permission to matter. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but answered to his own conscience. Epictetus, born in chains, became freer than his captors. Their power came not from controlling others' opinions, but from realizing no opinion could control them. Here's your ultimate takeaway. The next time someone looks down on you, smile, not at them, but at the realization that they've just given you a gift. They've offered you a chance to practice the rarest form of courage, the kind that doesn't require an audience's applause. They've handed you the whetstone to sharpen your serenity. Thank you for watching. We hope you found this video helpful. If it resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who could use a positive reminder. Remember, personal growth is a journey that takes time, so don't forget to subscribe for daily updates to strengthen your mindset day by day. Also, please check out our next video and playlist for more insights. Until next time, stay strong, stay calm, and stay stoic.